Welcome to another episode of the Writers Game podcast, where we help you magnify your voice and monetize your message. I am here with Bernadette Henry today. She is absolutely amazing. The new author of Jumping the Rope, Move Yourself and Manifest Your Success. She's going to be talking to us today about this process of jumping. She has an acronym that she's going to share with you all. And this journey of being the underdog, going through situations, and how do you jump over them, hurdle over them to become the person that you are always destined and desire to be able to become? How do you get to your purpose? How do you navigate life's challenges, life's stuff, all in all aspects, whether it's the workplace, relationships, or just individual life in general, so that you can become the best version of yourself without losing the pieces of you that you actually love? Bernadette, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am absolutely fantastic. I know that this has been a long time coming. So we're just going to get straight into it. Can you just go ahead and introduce yourself and talk to us about how you're leveraging this story of jumping the rope to be able to transform lives?
Yes, so my name is Bernadette Henry, and yes, I am the author of Jumping the Rope, Move Yourself and Manifest Your Success. I am a mom of three, a wife, a full-time case manager, a jump rope instructor, a life coach, and yes, that's who I am. And I'm using this story to help women overcome their barriers to become, confident to, move the needle and manifest their success.
What are some of the, I guess, the frequent barriers that not just women, but people are in general experiencing in their day-to-day life?
Yes, barriers, time, money, lack of support, being busy, being overwhelmed. These are kind of the external barriers that people have. And then internally, of course, there are things like anger and unforgiveness and low confidence, low self-worth, and things like that.
I know that for me, there can be so many different things that are consuming your mind on a daily basis. I feel like we have thousands of thoughts that come in and out of our minds. In your opinion, how does one, I guess, chronologically order or prioritize the different things that they have going on and start checking off, and removing the barriers in their lives?
The biggest step really is to realize that there are barriers. A lot of times we have these things and we don't know. So it takes time, sitting down with ourselves and really looking to see, like, I'm in school now, and there's a class that I'm taking, managing conflict. And one of the first assignments that our professor had us do was take the personality assessment. And when I tell you I was mind blown, it was I was mind blown. Like, I have my personality type, and once I started to read into the strengths, the weaknesses, how it affects your parenting and your social life and your career, and it just like went through everything. And even though everything was true, it now I now sat down and realized, like, oh wow, okay, this is why I am the way I am. So now when doing things like that, you kind of get to see yourself, and now you can say, okay, there are some barriers here, right front and center, and this is how I can, begin to make the changes.
What are some of the barriers or challenges that you're currently experiencing that you're using your own strategies to navigate through?
I would say procrastination, overwhelm, being what's that person? That person that's always kind of like jumping. So I'm I can't even think of the word right now. Spontaneous person. Just kind of ready to just kind of jump in, all feet all in, not thinking about it, not like weighing the pros and cons. And that was kind of like my personality type, the entertainer type, that I just kind of do things. And it works. It has its, it has its pros, and then it has its cons. Its pros is that I'm always going to be willing to take that action no matter what. I'm not going to think about it. And because a lot of times when we're left to our thoughts, we start to like give ourselves, now talking ourselves out of it. So now when you're that type of person, you're just going to go for it. And it's like, okay, if everything goes good, it goes good. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But at least I gave it my best effort. Now, if you're someone that's like has to sit around and think about it, now you're going to sit down with yourself and your thoughts, and you're going to say, oh no, it's not going to work because of this, or it's not going to work because of that. So I think really having that insight into yourself and being honest to really say, okay, this is where I'm, confident, and this is where I'm not confident, and being able to work on it, I think that makes the biggest differences.
I was reviewing your book before we had an opportunity to talk today, and in chapter one, obviously, that's where the foundation is set, and you talk about forgiving what you can't forget. And I think that a lot of times we have this false sense of, something's happening in our lives. Well, I can never forgive because I can't forget. Can you talk about one of the quotes that I want to read just in your book, if you don't mind? To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you all along, by Lewis B. Smedes. Can you talk a little bit more about how you can forgive even when that event is so challenging or traumatizing to forget?
This question, it's really like funny because just last week I had like such a mindset shift when it came to forgiveness. And a lot of the times we forgive, of course, to set ourselves free. We forgive for ourselves, but we don't really like, even though we may forgive that person, I think a lot of times we do it out of guilt
Mm,
just to feel good about ourselves, just to move forward in our lives, even though this person may not, in our mind, have been held accountable for what they did or even asked for an apology, right? And I believe in forgiveness, you need to ask to be forgiven. Right. But a lot of times, of course, realistically, in certain situations, it's not going to happen. So, forgiveness, it's really a long process and journey because, in essence, you're never going to forget what happened. Something is always going to trigger that thought.
mm.
And I think what makes the difference is how you've dealt with it personally in order to move forward. Because some people are going to hold on to it for the rest of their lives. They're going to think about it every waking moment of the day. Every single thing around them is going to trigger them. But once you deal with it, it's not to say that you're never going to be triggered, but you have a better reaction to being triggered.
I heard a quote by Teresa Riazzi, and it was mentioned actually in your book as well. And it said, we sabotage the best parts of ourselves or the great things in our lives because deep down we truly just don't believe or feel that we're worthy of having great things. And in your book it talked about, this process of falling in love with me. How do people, because it is challenging for us to fall in love with another person or just love our jobs or love our relationship or love our kids, if we don't have that love for ourselves. Can you talk about the process of falling in love with yourself and why that's so important?
Basically, you have to really be open and honest with yourself and willing to, in a sense, be vulnerable and look at the things that are good and look at the things that are not so good. And you can magnify your strengths, yes, and then the things that you may not like about yourself, you have to deal with those things. A lot of people are walking around with these ill feelings of hurt and anger and unforgiveness, and maybe even looking down on themselves because of things that's happened in their lives. Like, I can sit and look at my life and say, oh my gosh, I used to drink all the time, I smoke all the time, or I have like three children by three different dads. I should feel worthless and dirty and ashamed. And I know people that feel this way, but it's until you like really change the perception of yourself and really get that help that you're able to move forward. But it really, really starts with being honest with yourself, because you cannot get help until you're willing to be honest with yourself, because it's going to hurt. Like, you're going to sit and you're going to think and of all of these things and say, oh my gosh, like, really, I did that, I let myself do this, how dumb was I, how this, how that. But it's really until you're willing to be honest and take that honest look that you're going to be able to start to get the help that you need.
I appreciate you saying that because, oftentimes in our lives, and I'm sure there's somebody right now listening or watching that can relate to this, where we do all of these different things in our past, or we were this person. We experienced life differently than what we require from life today. So we're stunting our growth of moving forward because we're so caught up in that person. And until we accept it, lean into it and move forward, we won't be able to essentially accomplish the things that we, are destined to accomplish. One of the things that truly spoke to me in your book, in your pages, was obviously the confidence curve in chapter 4. It's one of those chapters that really, it really lights a fire under you, in my opinion. Because at the end of the chapter, it gave like knowing more how to jump the rope. So it talked about confidence is key to living a happy and fulfilling life. Relationships are what makes you rich, as well as accepting yourself is to love yourself. Out of all of those different things, what are you most proud to share? And talk to me about the process that it took you to even be able to have the courage to share that today.
I would say the biggest thing really is, wow, confidence and loving yourself is so intertwined, right? So I would start with loving yourself. I think that once you love yourself, then you become a little bit more confident. And the process of loving yourself, it's a lot because you have to think about who you are in essence, and then you have to think about all of the ideologies and things and lessons that you were taught as a child. A lot of things that happens in our life goes way back to childhood. Like, you're a child and your parents have these set of beliefs or these set of expectations for you, and
Yeah.
you have to go through life try to live out what everybody else wants for you, your teachers, your friends, your family. You have to live out these expectations, and then you know later on in life, sometimes you may start to challenge those things and say, wait a minute, I like this way of doing things, or I like that way of doing things. And then it becomes like an internal conflict, because that's kind of what happened to me. Like, I was raised this certain way. And then when I grew up, it's just like, oh, wow, okay, I see things a little bit differently. Let me go down this path. And then it becomes like it's a big conflict. Like, oh my gosh, I've been with this for 18, 19 years. And then, like, now the rest of my life, I have to kind of unlearn or either tweak how I do things. Like, for example, um, when I had a child, I brought books about how to, like, take your child to the doctor, right? And someone said to me, "Oh, I never had to buy a book on how to take your child to the doctor." And it's just like, okay, well, there are things that you can learn every day. Like, it's not the end all be all.
Of course.
And it's kind of things like that, when you're willing to stretch beyond what you were taught, that comes that inner conflict. And then you have to kind of go through this transformation process of, okay, I can do this or I can do that. And then in the midst of that, there are other things that you're going through in the present moment. So it's kind of like you have to look at your past, look at where you want to go, and then look at where you are presently, and figure out how can all of these things work together to really bring me to that self-love and the things that I want to do, and the confidence that I need to keep going.
Walk me through when you were going through these challenges. You probably needed to hear either an affirmation or a word of encouragement, or even just some direction to be able to navigate that space differently. I want you to walk me through what you wish you would have heard, and talk to that person right now that's currently where you used to be.
It's hearing that I am worthy. I i deserve more than what I've given to myself. I deserve more than what I've let people do to me. I deserve to be strong, and not strong in that sense that I can overcome any and everything, but just strong in my own set convictions, knowing I have a voice. I deserve to be heard. I don't need external validation all the time. Sometimes it's necessary, but a lot of times validation starts with yourself. And when you suppress that for other people, that's the worst kind of misery, the worst kind of place that you can be in. And, just be confident with who you are and what you stand for. And, you move through life that way.
When you say these things right now, how does it make you feel to know that you're on this other side of this journey of jumping and becoming?
it makes me feel great because, like I said, I was that person that suppressed everything, that suppressed the greatness is all like it's always in you. Whatever you have, whatever you deem great, whatever you deem not so great, everything is always within you. It just takes those moments and experiences to pull them out. And I always knew that I was the person I was destined to be, but I always suppressed it because I was always concerned about other people and people pleasing and what is this person going to think about me and what is that person going to think about me. And I think until I was until I allowed myself to really, say, hey, look, I can start to think differently or I can be differently. Until I did that and then got the help to really pull those things out, I was able to move forward.
What is it? What does healing mean to you? Like, how would you define that? What does it mean to you? And walk me through how someone can get to a point that they are healed.
Healing is being willing to be vulnerable, transparent, open with yourself first. And once you're able to do that, you're able to see the good, the bad, the ugly. And unfortunately, most times we do remember the bad. So I think a lot of that bad and a lot of that ugly is going to stand out first. And, we just have to be willing to lay it all out on the line. And once we do that, okay, now find a trusted professional or a person, even though I really rather lean towards that professional that you can talk to. And really what they do is you kind of like drive the boat in a sense. You're driving the boat and they're kind of just pulling out and rewording the things that you're telling them. And in essence, you're the one that have to come up with the solution to whatever that thing is inside. And I think the more you're able to do that, the more you're able to move forward.
Now that makes sense. If with somebody listening right now, and if you're watching the recording or if you're here live with us, put your questions in the chat so that Bernadette can respond to those right now. Bernadette, I have this question for you. When you think of your life story, just in general, what are you most proud to say that you've accomplished now in life?
I would really say evolving into this person that I am now.
Yeah.
Because it's the person that I am now is a person that I've always wanted to be back in my 20s. Like
Wow.
I look at journals that I've written even when I was in those, downward spiral moments. And I have this one book where I said to myself, when I get myself together, I am going to help other women. And I
Mm,
said this over 20 years ago.
wow.
And I'm proud that I'm becoming that, but looking at this time that we're recording, I will be 44 in April. I
Wow.
said these things when I was like in my early 20s. So it took over 20 years of change, of growth, of help to get where I am today. So this is not something that's going to happen in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Maybe it does for some, but always remember too, who you were in your 20s, your mindset is different in your 30s. And then it is different from your 40s. So as you evolve through your life changes, your mindset is going to evolve. Like how you thought now is not how you thought 20 years ago, is not how you're going to think 20 years from now.
Of course, of course. What is one of the most powerful lessons you've learned about life thus far?
That you have to be happy and what you choose and your choices. You have to be confident enough to go and pursue those things no matter what's in your way, no matter what who is saying what. And that includes yourself because a lot of times we are our biggest barriers.
Mm. That brings me to this point, because I think that a lot of times we have so much access to information now. So we have Google, we have YouTube, we have podcasts, we have in social media. We could always get advice and all of these different things. But if you were to sum up one piece of advice that you could give to every single person in the world, what would it be?
Listen to yourself and be proud of the choices that you make and also be confident in the choice that you make before you share with everyone else because when you're not confident in that choice, once you start speaking to people, then it's going to change. You're going to say, you're gonna, now all the things inside that's stopping you, all of that's now going to come up. Oh, I knew this was the case. I knew I was this. I knew it. I knew it. And you're going to talk yourself out of it. And I've noticed that with myself. I've talked myself out of many things because I wasn't sure in my decisions before I spoke to other people. So I would say really take time when you do make a decision, really take time and sit in it, do your list of pros and cons and why you can and why you can't, and really be sure of that before you talk to other people about what you're going to do. And yes, it's okay to take in their opinions, but really have a strong sense of confidence in yourself before you take it to other people.
I love one of the things that you said earlier, Bernadette, where you talked about this journey that it took you essentially 20 plus years to get to the woman that you are today and the person that you are today, the mom, the wife, all of these different things. And you helped people recognize that, look, it may be 1 year for you to have growth, or 5 years or 10 years, but life is an evolution, and it takes time to be able to become that person. And in this time, there's certain sacrifices that you've probably had to make to be able to become this person. What is, in your opinion, what is the greatest sacrifice that you've had to make and to become who you are today?
I would say, life, it's people always say you have to find balance. And in a sense, there is no such thing as balance. It's like as you're pursuing one thing, something else is gonna fall by the wayside. And it's like whatever you pay the most attention to, it's what's going to, elevate you even more. So I would say, oh God, I lost my train of thought. But I would say like I said, there's not no such thing as balance. So something's always going to weigh more than the other. So whether you're a mom, whether you're a wife, whether you're a friend, a cousin, different goals and dreams that you have are going to require different things out of you. So like right now, I'm in school full time. I'm in school full time. I'm working full time, and I'm a mom. So that may require me to maybe give some of those extra responsibilities with my children to their dads, or my husband. And because I can't fully be there when I'm tired because I'm trying to study, or I have tests, or I'm doing homework, or I may not be able to cook that hot meal every day. Sometimes I may have to say, hey, look, let's have a sandwich. So really looking at your life and rearranging the pieces as your life allows,
Yeah,
and not being hard on yourself. That's really the major key too, is not being hard on yourself about it.
I love that. I love that. Oftentimes in my life, I've had to sacrifice the time, especially being a dad as well. I've had to sacrifice the time. There's resources that have had to be sacrificed. But I think in my life, the biggest thing that I've had to sacrifice is perspectives and people from the past that will no longer allow me to go to my future. And that's been like the key strategy that's worked for me. What in this process of jumping the road, moving yourself and manifesting your success, what is one of your key strategies to navigating life once you have challenges, or once you have trauma, or once you have events that kind of get you off of your rocker for a bit?
I would say really getting the help that you need and really putting the right people in your life. They always say that you're the sum of the five people that's in your circle. So really looking at the people surrounding you and say, look, who adds value? And these are the people that I'm going to navigate to. And if they don't add value, yes, you can love from a distance, but they do not need to be front and center in your life. And you have to be willing to let that go.
In your life, and I'm a storyteller, so I always like to ask this question on different podcasts, especially with guests that I truly, truly admire, like yourself. In a story, you have the beginning, the rise, the climax, and then the ending, and then the conclusion, of course. But that climax is that moment in a character's life or in a movie, and in that scene that they get it clicks for them, and then the whole movie changes. In your life, what was that climax moment where you were like, I need to do better, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. Like, walk me through what happened leading up to it, and then what was that moment that was it transformed your life forever?
Okay. So coming into young adulthood, of course, I, carried on the beliefs and things that I had as a child. And now left to navigate adulthood alone, there were a lot of things that happened that I had not dealt with.
Mm.
So I decided one day that I was going to make an attempt on my life because I had no one to talk to, for fears of feeling judged and things like that. So I called my coworker at the time. I said, "Hey, look, I don't come to work tomorrow. I'm dead." I did what I did, and then something like just snapped and said, "Go to the hospital." And I don't remember how I got there, but I got there. And once I was there, you know, I was able to see now, oh, wow, you need help. And that's when the therapy started. I started going to therapy. And even though I was in therapy, of course, I still lived life recklessly. I was still in my 20s and still doing the things that I was doing. And the shift really didn't start until I started having children in my late 20s. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, I don't want to take these things into motherhood and raising my children. So I started going to therapy. And then by the time I got pregnant with my second child, 2 years later, there was a specialized therapy for women that were victims of abuse.
Okay.
And in that specialized therapy, I was able to see why I was doing a lot of the things that I was doing. I was seeking attention, I was seeking protection, I was seeking validation, all of these things that I didn't, or that I felt in my mind that I didn't get in those younger years. So now I'm like mind blown, like, oh my gosh, this is why I'm doing the things. And then it's like, okay, so I don't need to do these things. And then really sitting down and being honest and looking at, okay, so because I was doing this, I should feel like less of myself. I shouldn't feel happy. I shouldn't feel confident. I should feel dirty, disgusting. And you go through that, and then you get the help, additional help to work through those feelings. Like, why do you feel this way about yourself? And what are the strengths that you do have that can help you when you start to feel this way about yourself? And I think that one of those things really for me was that I was working in social services as a case manager. So essentially in my mess, I was helping other people that were like probably worse off than me, or that were in these things that worked through it, And I think that always kept me afloat because I've always been a helper.
Mhm.
Um, as a child, I wanted to be a queen. I wanted to be a librarian. I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to be a social worker. So even as a child, the theme was always helping people.
Of course.
And in a sense, even though like I was an assistant teacher and I never become a social worker, but as a case manager, I help people. And I think that eventually, me helping other people led me to that path of eventually helping myself, and
Yeah.
but with the help of others. So I would say, getting the help that I needed, and then taking all these barriers, or working through my own barriers, and now becoming the person I am because of the help.
That is powerful. And I love how you walk through this, like pulling back the layers. It's like, all right, once I went to this therapy, then I had this, and then it realized this, and then it opened me up to this. And it's this process that so many people neglect to do of pulling back the layers. But before you can pull back the layers, you gotta start peeling. You
Right.
gotta start somewhere. You have to jump. You have to begin the process. And it's similar to kind of like it's broken up into lessons or themes or seasons in our lives. And I guess one of the final questions that I have for you today is, in your life journey, and at the end of the day, this is why it's so necessary. Anybody listening to this is so necessary that you go get the book, Jumping the Rope, Move Yourself and Manifest Your Success by Bernadette Henry. It's absolutely necessary. But in your life, Bernadette, if your whole story, right, was broken up into lessons, what would be the first lesson that you would teach and why?
First lesson is to take an honest look at yourself. Really take a look, the good, bad, the ugly. Take an honest look at yourself, and If you need to take a personality test to do so, I would say that would be a huge start, only because it's only going to reinforce what's already there. It's just going to show you in black and white.
That's good.
And I think that that'll help to jog your memory to see what's going on, the good, bad, the ugly.
I love that. I love that. Bernadette, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I know it's been a long time coming. And what would be your final message to listeners? What would be your final message if you had 30 seconds to share anything in the world or anything with everyone in the world? What would you share?
To really be confident and sure within yourself, whatever it is that you want to do in life, do not let yourself stop yourself. Don't let other people stop you. Just like in a jump rope, when you turn the rope, you're expected to jump over the rope. And if you don't jump over the rope is going to hit your foot. And that's the same thing with our goals, our dreams, our life. There are things that you want to do, but if you don't take action, if you don't jump over that rope, you're going to be stuck until you actually make the decision to do something about it.
That's we couldn't end any better than that. Where can we find you? Where can we get access to your book? And tell us where people can support you and how.
You can find me at www.makeitfunnyc.com. That's where you'll have the book. That's where you'll have access to different programs, courses, and challenges.
I love it. I love it. Bernadette, is there anything that you would like to leave us with? I know you've dropped so many amazing gems and strategies. Give us, close us out. Give us one more, if possible, one more thing that you would just want to share with the world in their process, in their season of jumping. Share it with us now.
Um, take action. Like, don't let anybody stop you. Take action and live the life that you deserve.
I love it. I love it. If you're still here with us, anybody, we appreciate you watching this episode of the Writers Game podcast, where we help you magnify your voice and monetize your message. We're here. We're here with Bernadette Henry. Go check out her links that are in the description and get the book. Get the book, Jumping the Rope, Move Yourself, and Manifest Your Success. Look, we will see you guys next episode, and leverage this time to start working, writing, and sharing your story with the world. We'll see you guys next episode.